Welcome back. Let's continue our conversation right here at Constitution Hill. We're talking about this intergenerational dialogue that's been taking place between the class of 76 and the generation of now. From a woman's perspective, and we've been hearing from our panel just before the break, and they raised a number of issues, similarities, differences, and some themes that continue to reoccur that need to be addressed. But let's get a sense of what's happening in the room here, and then we'll get to you as well at home. As we start with Sebake Trinity, if you could stand up and just make your question. There we go.
Morning, everyone. My name is Sebake Trinity from University of Venda, Deputy Secretary General. Mine is just an idea, kind of sharing idea. I'm on the idea that, Minister, this kind of programs that we're having be extended to rural areas, young girls in rural areas. Like Nopala yesterday said, learners in grade 10, they must be taught how to write CVs and stuff. My idea is this program also be extended to young girls in rural areas, in a sense that we start empowering them when they're still in high school. When they go to institution of high learning, we now have empowered young girls who can stand on their own, who can now face the challenges that we're facing in higher education. As we all know that patriarchy is still operating in rural areas where we have these young girls being abused every day, where we have these young girls who passed grade 12, who did not even bother to go to school. I think this kind of program, as we SRC members, we can also engage in this program. We go out there in rural areas, then we engage with these young girls in rural areas, then we empower them. So when they go to institution of higher learning, now we have empowered young girls. Thanks.
Okay, so the rural areas should not be forgotten. Riabatswe, where are you? Okay, if you could just tell us who you are. Oh, Riabitswe.
Good morning.
Okay, if you could tell us who you are as well so that we get a sense of who's in the room.
My name is Riabetswe Matsileng Siakecho. I'm a University of Cape Town alumni and University of Sussex law student starting this year. Last night we had groundbreaking discussions, and for many of us as the class of 2016 or young female leaders, we were touched because we heard stories that are not really captured in our history books. And we saw women and our leaders who look like us, who carry strengths like us, telling us about what happened in these walls. But also something that was emphasized was the relationships that they had, intercontinental relationships with other women on the continent, and the support that other women on the continent gave to our mothers from 1956, from 1976. And I really wanted us, as moving forward as the future leaders of South Africa, young female leaders, to strengthen and establish relationships with other women on the continent, and to open our doors and our assistance with our cause of education and fees must fall, but also bringing awareness to commitments such as silencing the guns and peace and security on our continent, and offering, awareness and conscientizing young girls from a young age on what it means to be displaced, what it means to be a diaspora, what conflict means, what our responsibility as young South Africans are, and the position of privilege that we have. It is our responsibility to also open up our doors, to also be aware of the issues facing other young women on the continent and their exclusion from peace and security processes, the violation of women's rights as human rights. It is also our responsibility to hold hands with other young women and their causes right now in the continent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Can I get a microphone to this table here, because there are a number of women here that were there 76 and paid a heavy price in their activities at the time, and some were actually even jailed here at this venue. So if one of you could get a microphone, just stand up and just say who you are, and just give us a sense of the time that you lived through, what was happening, and your thoughts about the South Africa that's come through as a result of your sacrifices.
Thank you very much. Thanks indeed for this invitation. My name is Baby Kyawa. At that time, I was 16, turning 17, and I just want to start by one little thing. To me, it's quite a milestone to be in this forum, because it's 20 years of the Constitution, 40 years of 1976, 60 years of the Women's March. At that time, I think it's been captured that indeed the policies and legislations of this country were not supportive of African people, worst of all of women. And as young girls then, we were subjected to quite atrocious systems like the apartheid system. I spent almost 10 months in this place, having spent another 9-10 months at John Foster School with some of my friends that we met today. I think one of the things that the young people are talking about, the young women are talking about now, is indeed what we could actually work at. Do a lot of support through mentoring and coaching. And of course, it will be easier, Peter, because they now do WhatsApp, so we don't have to meet physically. That's some of the things that we can do even to enhance the notion of support. Because what we are today because of the women that we were exposed to, Masi Sulu, Lilian Goy, Helen Joseph, many of those women who grew us up. To me, what also is very exciting is I think I appreciate what the minister has done. Because when you talk 1976, we think that it was on the 16th of June 1976 and the struggle started and ended there. And that struggle was driven by young men, or shall I say boys. So in this case, we have almost like, shall I say, unearthed a lot of women who were also marching. And I think it is those women who will actually have to assist, handhold the young women who are actually excelling in their various careers. I'm very excited. During those years, you didn't even think of doing engineering. You had to do social work or become a teacher, and if you're a teacher, you must come get JC junior certificate. Then you get paid like that. And those struggles are gone. Just to finish up, say, I think the young women in this era are definitely faced with a changed environment, globalized world, contestations of the world order, shrinking economy, and there will be a continuous struggles around economic access, ensuring that nobody goes to bed hungry, that there is education, and because there is education, how do they access it, financially or so. I want to part by saying I would encourage the generation of now to use the legislations. There's constitutions, there are those legislations. Let's empower each other to know how do you lobby. How do you lobby your local municipality? How do you lobby your MEC? How do you lobby your public representative to get the messages to the ministers? It cannot be the minister only having to struggle alone. She can do what she can, but when she opens those doors, let us push through, use our public representatives, let them do what they are voted into office to do, and mobilize each other and assist in doing so. Use the legislations because the policies are there. And South Africa is the best constitution in the world. Let us use it to work for ourselves and really address poverty in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed for your thoughts and your contributions as well. Okay, so your reflections. A lot of things coming through, but the rural girl child, I guess, is probably right at the bottom of the food chain in terms of opportunity, because she has to deal with so much. And that's coming through quite strongly from our first speaker. But just your thoughts on some of the things that you've heard. Minister, let's start with you.
Thanks, Peter. I think it's very important to also say, whilst the rural girl still faces a challenge, it's different from the past. But what we need to do is to enhance where the girl child is from the rural area. In the past, the rural area, most of them had no electricity. It's better off. One of the issues and the critical aspects we're dealing with as government, it's access to water, sanitation, very key for the rural girl. Education, and when you look at it, whilst it's still a struggle, but we're moving in the right direction, because some of the things which used to happen in the past, issues of ukutwala, are now no longer the order of the day. The law prohibits that. Those things are banned. But I think the issue which is very important, especially for the girl child who's here today, to what extent do we make sure we make aware that rural girl that she has a right. She cannot allow herself or subject herself to be married unwillingly or to be forced into marriages. So those are the issues which we've got to take forward. And I think together with the young people, which we've agreed to in terms of partnership, to what extent do we work together and reach out to the various areas, but also to the urban girl? We have a very sick situation, the so-called blessers. It's our responsibility as a whole, as elderlies or as mothers, together with our young girls, to hold hands and make sure that we fight all those ills, because the rural girl, in a particular way, also faces the blesser. The blessers are all over. They're not only in the cities, they're all over the country. Those are the issues. Access to education, access to opportunities. That's what we've got to emphasize in making sure that the girl of today is different from the girl of yesterday. So we've agreed yesterday that we're going to form partnerships. We're going to work together. We have some of the women who like Nomsa from 1976. She's a very active woman. She's involved in mentorship. We've agreed that we're going to partner, work together in reaching out to all the girls in various areas. The leadership from the university, which is here, these are women leaders in their own rights. It's SRC presidents, vice presidents. It can't end up here. We're going to work together. We're going to go to various parts of South Africa, whether they're from Fort Hare, UWC, we have KZN, as you heard, Univen. When we go to Univen, we need to work together in making sure when we're in Limpopo, we are able to contribute and reach out to the young girl in creating self-confidence, self-esteem, for them to realize they've got a role in society to play. And if we do that, then when you talk about transformation becomes a reality. It does not just become transformation in paper. We have all the good laws, but laws are just papers. We need to implement and advancing those laws. And where we need to have changes, we've got to be acceptable, because laws are dynamic, they're not static.
Okay, so one of the good things about living in South Africa is government has led the way in terms of empowering women. If you look at cabinet, if you look at parliament, if you look at our various legislatures, women are participating. But that's not the same story in private sector, in the workplace, is it? We're seeing, sadly, less women in the boardrooms and as CEOs of JSE-listed companies. That struggle is still so far to go.
Peter, I think the sad thing is that we had gone a long way, even in terms of ensuring that the number of women in the boardroom increase. We've actually gone back as a nation, which is a very sad state of affairs. And it becomes interesting when you hear either people on boards or you hear people that are responsible for searching for women saying, but we can't find them. And it's interesting when you look at the numbers in terms of the number of women that are successful, even when they go to university. The numbers are actually more in terms of women than they are in terms of boys, but you still hear there are no women. There are no people of color, and that's the excuse that we make, is to say there aren't enough black women. But there are. It's just that we don't give them the opportunity. The responsibility that each and every one of us has, particularly those that can influence, is for us to go out there and say, it doesn't matter what seat you sit on, is to lift as you rise, and you can lift by saying, I'm here and I cannot continue to be alone, because interestingly, statistically, it's been proved that if you're alone, you actually don't have a voice. When there's two, you begin to have a bit of influence. But once you have more than 3 women around the board, that's when you can really make sure that you can chart the path and make sure that the other women within that organization where you serve, but also in terms of other communities, can actually feel your impact. Otherwise, your impact cannot be felt by you when you're alone. And in some instances, you find that we always think it's because I'm special. All of us are. All of us around this room are special. Therefore, it is our responsibility to make sure that we continue to lift as we rise, and also to make sure that we stop the pull head down syndrome that seems to manifest amongst us, because it's only when we're together that we can ensure that we impact, because alone you cannot impact. The aspect of mentoring and coaching is one of the things that becomes important also, to make sure that you take, because we always argue that we don't have enough time. You can't not have enough time when you've got technology, because you can mentor and coach using technology because of where we are today.
I'm going to unpack that a bit more. There's so much, and there's so many themes that we can unpack here. But Akhona, you're a student leader, and we've seen a very vocal and powerful student leadership, particularly towards the end of last year, beginning of this year. We heard just now, use the things that are there, and I'm just wondering, are you being heard? Because it seems that there's something disconnected, that you've ended up having to go to the streets, ended up having to be more belligerent than ever before. As young people, are you being heard by the likes of Minister Shabangu and CEOs such as Totsie?
Thank you, Peter. You know, with the campaign of fees must fall, it wasn't necessarily just to look at fees. And that is why it was able to be so powerful, because there's a lot of underlying issues that needed to be addressed. Access to institutions, and even the call that we're continuously saying as young people of South Africa, the call for free education. It's not necessarily just to say that provide free education, but to look at the underlying issues that still exploit females. The blessing phenomenon that we talk about. What are the underlying issues that young Black females in South Africa need to express themselves to having blessers in order for themselves to be financially stable? In fact, it's quite shocking, Peter, that in our democratic South Africa, a municipality in KZN would exploit the female to virginity testing before she's funded for a bursary. And that is happening in a democratic South Africa. So the question that you're asking, are we really being heard on our calls to say, fund the young Black children to access higher education? Not necessarily just to say that you're funding, but you're enabling South Africa. The economic crisis that we're in right now, ensure that we educate young females to be economists, finance treasury, so that we're able to ensure that as females, our voice is heard where it needs to be heard most. And it's quite sad that we had to take to the streets in order for our voice to be heard, to say that our parents cannot afford higher education. We are being excluded from institutions of higher education because of the very past that our parents experienced. They couldn't be able to go to universities. Therefore, the jobs that they are in currently, they do not pay them enough to send us to university. And it's about time that we start addressing those issues, to say that what is government doing? But most importantly, the beneficiaries of the very same graduates in universities, which is the private sector, what are they doing to ensure that South African youth is educated?
Okay.
And that's the question that we also need to start exploring, to say that you're the beneficiaries of these graduates, but you're not putting anything in to ensure that they do end up getting educated.
Okay, all right. Okay, Joy, one of the struggles that women have to face is balance and trying to manage everything. On the one hand, you're coming into a very male-dominated and oriented environment.
Yes.
And on the other, you're also a girl, a young woman. And I just wonder, is this something that the system or patriarchy or whatever is making you're being forced to choose. You're either an engineer or you are a woman. You can't be both.
Yeah, there's also a say that if you are in a technical environment, you don't look attractive. But I believe it's wrong because I can still go out there and wear those heels and be in the workplace and wear all the overalls. So I believe that it's all about what you want. And the most important thing is mentorship, because you get to experience something through someone rather experiencing that thing on yourself. So through mentorship, you can conquer everything.
All right. Well, what would you like to say to men and to young men in particular, and how they should be treating women nowadays?
I think they should treat us equally, because in terms of knowledge, we all have that equal knowledge in terms of working environment. Because I have 8 months now in my working environment, and I still feel like I'm better than most of the men that are there. Just that the strength, you can tell from the strength that this is a woman and this is a man. But in terms of knowledge, I think I'm better than them.
All right. Okay. And I have no doubt you probably are. We're going to take a quick break, and then after the break, I'm going to introduce to another panelist that's coming up. She's a former Brigadier General in the South African National Defence Force, and she was very much part of the struggle as well, MK, and we'll get her story after this. Stay with us, and we'll get your tweets as well.